Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and today I'm going to make a drawstring backpack. And I'm going to start with 2 fat quarters, and I'm going to use some parachute cord. That's all we're going to need other than our thread and our machine. So you could choose any 2 fat quarters and get this done. Let's get started. I'm using 2 fat quarters of quilting cotton. A fat quarter runs 18 inches by 22 inches. First thing I'm going to do is put those fabrics together, right side, press, and trim them off so we have a nice big rectangle. And it won't matter the size. The only thing that's going to matter is what are we going to use for the top. And that way we can keep that in mind if we're going to have directional fabric. The long part is going to be the sides of the bag. We have a bottom, and then we need to have this top. We're going to do French seams on the sides, and that way it stays nice and clean looking from the inside. So it won't really matter the size of this bag. It's a technique that you're going to be able to use for any size. So I have not even measured that. I've just evened it up. Wherever your top is going to be, we want to measure down 4 inches and then cut 1 inch in. So I have that 1 inch cut on the one side, and I also need to do the same to the other side. This is going to give us an opportunity to do a little rolled hem. So we're going to roll it once, and we're going to roll it a second time so that that folded edge is going to come right to the end of that cut. I find the easiest way to take care of this corner is to fold it first right along that edge, so the fold goes right to that point, and then fold one more time in and press. And to stitch, I stitch right along that edge, and then I come off. So I have that stitch, and I've come off, and I'm going to do that to all 4 corners. Now that those 2 edges are done, take the top and just fold in and press about 1/4 of an inch, and it doesn't have to be exact. Take this fold edge and match it right along this edge here. So that fold will match that cut. So we will have this box cut out of the corner. From here, we can do a row of stitching all the way along the bottom. Be sure to back stitch on each edge. The top portion of the bag is now done, and this is where that drawstring is going to go in. We're going to do a French seam along the side. So what we want to do is not match the right sides together. Normally we would match the right sides and do a seam, but in this case we're going to match the wrong sides. But we do need to attach the cord along the bottom. You can cut approximately a 4-inch piece of your cording and put it in the corners, or use a piece of ribbon. I'm going to use a piece of ribbon so you're going to be able to see clearly on how I'm going to do these corners. With those wrong sides together, stick this in between the 2 layers and come up about 1 inch. So I'm going to have that sticking out. So the loop is facing the outside. And I'm going to just match up that fabric in the corners. So this is the long side, my tops are matching up, and I have the wrong sides facing. Match up the edges and stitch 1/4 inch. And we're going to do the same to both sides. With those 2 side seams done, we have this sort of a tube shape. So turn that wrong side out. Now we have those fabrics so that the right sides are touching. I would recommend to press this so that seam is right along the edge. Our next row of stitching is going to come right where that little edge is. So we're going to back stitch here and then just stitch all the way down. This will be a wide seam, but having that wide seam gave us the opportunity to make this little top where that string is going to go through. So that seam is right along both sides of the bag. If we peek inside, we're going to see that little loop. I did backstitch over top of this area here where your cord would be or the ribbon. And that way it just gives it some extra strength. Now at the top, we can just leave it this way. But if you don't like the look of that raw edge, just tuck it in. Then once that is just tucked in, it's going to be this sort of angle shape. You're going to be able to stitch that down. And that's going to give you a nice finish for that top. So the side seams are done and that top is done. We're going to close off that bottom by turning this so that the right sides are facing out. We're going to do that French seam again. So press the bag so that the seams are lining up. Line up the bottom and do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once that 1/4 inch is done, match up that bottom seam and make sure that these little pulls are out of the way. When we've turned this fabric to do the last seam, we're going to notice that we have this strange little corner. This is where I've pinned that ribbon out of the way, and I have that corner that wants to fold over, and that's fine. Just poke that out just so that it lies flat. So on the one side, it's going to look like this. And then on the back side, you're going to see that little fold. Just match up that bottom edge, and I do like to press it. And I'm going to press that corner over. Once that's pressed, we are going to do one row and our final row of stitching. We're going to stitch right along this bottom. And here's the reason I use the ribbon, so that you'll be able to see that stitching line. I'm just going to stitch right along that edge because I want that ribbon right in that bottom corner. Or you would have that rope in the corner. So back stitch, stitch all the way. And when you get to the other side, you're going to just line up that edge and stitch. So we have one more row of stitching and we're done. So that is going to be the bottom of the bag. I made sure that my little loops were pulled out of the way. Now I can pull this right side out and all of the sewing is now done. We now have that little ribbon or string right in the corner and it is a nice finish. So the Drawstring Backpack is about 15 inches by 17 inches. And yours will vary depending on how you trimmed your fabric down. Those French seams do add a nice finish, but they also add strength. And that way this bag's going to be good and strong. Now if you don't want to do a French seam, by all means, just do a serger or do some kind of finishing that you would like. Now we need to put the drawstrings in. And the drawstring is going to change depending on the size of the bag that you have. We're going to have 2 drawstrings, one on each side of the bag. So the first thing, we're going to put that through that loop in the bottom. My point turner has a hole, so I'm going to be able to use that. Just put that all the way in. Now I'm going to continue to go into the back side. So on that one side, you'll see that cord go through. On the other side, we have both of those ends coming out. And we're going to be able to join it here. I want this cord as flat as I can and pretty close to this edge. So I have that cord that goes around, around, and back down. We only use that loop once. And you can see how flat that cord is. I'm going to repeat it for this side. Go through that bottom loop, go through the top, and where those 2 strings are coming out, I'm going to go through. So I'm pretending there is no opening. And when I do that, I will have my 2 strings coming out of the opposite side. Now match the edges and tie a knot just like this side. This is what it's going to look like now that it's all finished. When you need to figure out how much cording you're going to need enough for whatever you're knotting here. So let's say 3 or 4 inches. We need the side of the bag. We need the top of the bag. It comes back down and down here. So each side, in this case, takes 71 inches. And once again, this bag is approximately 17 inches by 15 inches. And that was from 2 fat quarters. And this bag is going to close up very simply. We're going to take that top and pull it together. So this is going to fit over our shoulders. So the drawstring bag looks flat like this until we take those two edges and pull. And that's where they're going to fit around the back. And if you want, you can always carry them on one shoulder. This gives a nice size to carry books, swimsuits, projects, anything that we need to travel with and we want to be hands-free. And it starts with 2 fat quarters and some parachute cord, which means we can change this for everyone who wants a different bag. You can definitely add that parachute cording into that area where I did put the ribbon, and you can change the size. It's a fun project to do, and it's a very usable project. My grandchildren have a couple of these, and I know they love them, and they pull them all over the place with them. And the bonus is, it's washable. So you can make these any size. It's just that little technique along the top and some French seeds. Give it some strength. I do hope you liked today's project on a drawstring backpack. And thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and I do have a newsletter all under Sew Very Easy. Thanks for joining me today. Bye for now.